It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. On this episode, we have the one and only Dr. Carole Cobb, who's in the building. She's going to be talking about stop playing small. What? You can't live your best life in so many words. What's going on, Dr. Carole? How you doing?
Hi, I am great, blessed, highly favored, and empowered to prosper.
Well, it is an honor and a privilege to have you. Thanks for joining. Thank you at home for watching and allowing us to be a part of your evening, especially during these very challenging times that we're living in right now. Thank you. I know what we're talking about today, stop playing small. And at the risk of sounding like a pessimist, I got a question. Maybe it's a question of the audience as well, which is, why are people playing small these days? I guess the question is, why would anyone even want to play small?
Well, first, let me say thank you for having me on. And that's a good question because oftentimes people don't know how small they're playing because of the people around them and the environment. Because if you're out of position and you're in a place where people are causing you to shrink your gifts and your talents so that they can live large, then if you're in that environment after so long, then you begin to fit in. And you don't want people to force you into a position or a place or a space that you're too big for. So it can be a number of things. It could be self-esteem. It could be other people's opinion. It can be the things you heard when you were growing up. It could be a plethora of things. But when you accept the things that people put on you, that's when you begin to believe it. And so we're going to live out our beliefs, whether they're great or small or in between. So we have to start with reframing what we think about ourselves and reframing what it is that comes into our ear gates.
What do you say to the person who's listening right now? We'll get into her background. I know some of you have already read her bio. You see how famous she is. I know. Others of you, you don't even know who she is. You're meeting her for the very first time. So in a little while, we'll give her a chance to talk about who she is and her backstory. But what do you say to the person who's like, look, Dr. Carole, I'm not playing small. I just got to be conservative because I've tried, being in a relationship before and it didn't work out. Okay. I tried going for this promotion at work. I wasn't playing small, but I went after it and I didn't get it. So now I'm trying to be conservative so people don't think I'm just not qualified. So what do you say to the person that's more fearful of trying to go all out because they're concerned what other people are going to say about them?
Well, I'd have to say God did not give you the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So when you know you're gifted, you have to start believing in yourself. And that's a whole mind shift thing. It really comes about learning to pivot on purpose, learning to accept who God has made you, and understanding that when things are redirected in your life, it's not because you are out of order. It's because God is protecting you. That's not the way he wanted you to go in the first place. And when he redirects you, he's really repositioning you for those things that he has for you to make a kingdom impact through the gifts that he has given you. So that's what we have to start understanding is, okay, that one wasn't for me, but what is for me will be for me. I just have to change gears, but we can never, ever stop when we run into those roadblocks. We cannot do that because we're just too relevant for that. God has gifted us, each individuals, believers and non-believers, because he's a God that does not take back what he's given. Okay. So he's given us something inside of us to contribute to the earth, to this world, but it's our choice as to whether or not we're going to do it for the kingdom or we're going to do it for the other end. So I'm saying, don't give up, make a choice, because your choices make changes and changes can become permanent. So you have to decide that you really are too relevant, that you really were endowed with dunamis power to step into what God has already predestined for you.
I love it. That's spot on. And, you know, you used the word earlier, reframe. And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into her backstory. And reframe means different things to different people. So someone might be watching right now saying, she said, I have to do a reframe, Shay. You know, can she give me, what is the definition of a reframe? And how would someone like me be able to use a reframe in order for me to have the right mindset or the right belief systems or go after what I need to go after?
Reframing is taking what someone has told you and they meant it for not so good, but you've decided, you know what, I'm going to take that and I'm going to learn from that. I'll give you an example. Oliver Wendell Holmes, he was on the Senate floor with a long time ago, right? With some of his colleagues, and he stood about 5'5". His colleagues were about 6'2". And one of the gentlemen said, you must feel pretty small among us, don't you? And he kind of chuckled. He said, yes, I do. I feel like a dime among pennies. That's the kind of reframing I'm talking about. It hits you
I am a genius. I like that. Now, in doing so, before we get into your back, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get there. Okay, we're going to get there. But she said, stop playing small. Stop playing so small. Are there other affirmations? Or I guess really the question is, what is your thought process? I'll say that on affirmations. Do they work? Do they not work? And what are some affirmations that maybe you share with yourself or your clients so they can get into the right mindset and the right belief systems to really think not only as big as they can possibly think, but go do something about it?
Execution. Exactly. Well, I love affirmations and they work as long as you believe in them. One thing that I always tell myself is, you know what? God has given you many gifts and talents. It's up to you to give back to him through the use of those talents. It's up to you to tap into, I'm talking to myself, it's up to you to tap into what's inside you and pull it out, because too often we run into obstacles where everybody's trying to squash you and hold you down and all that. But you have to determine, you know what, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. I can do this. I can do all things through Christ. Now, my background is education and it's ministry. So I'm going to always use scripture because his word always comes to pass. Okay. So you have to understand, you know what? I have a purpose here. So let me work with scripture. Let me work through the Holy Spirit. Let me work through all of the tools that are around me to discover what that purpose is, and then walk boldly into it. When you look at the Wizard of Oz, okay? Dorothy and her 3 motley crew members and Toto went to the wizard looking for something, right? Once they got there, what they found out was what they were looking for, what they really needed was already in them. They just had to be put in a certain situation, a certain circumstance where they couldn't back down. They had no choice. So once the unsuspected Toto ran and pulled the curtains back, and the people saw that they had their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations on someone else, then they realized, you know what, if this is going to happen, I have to tap into the resources that are in me, the giftings that are in me to make it happen. So it's going to take courage. It's going to take some redirection, some retooling. And that's the whole framing. You know what? I can do this. I can do this. I just have to find the way to do that. And that's one thing, that's one of the tools that I give through my framework called Pivot on Purpose. You have to be determined to do the work within yourself in order to step into the purposes and use the gifts that are already given to you.
I love it, by the way. And as you were saying that, they said, Shay, we're ready now. Okay. Someone's in the kitchen cooking. Thanks so much. You may be listening to the podcast right now. We appreciate you, by the way. Maybe right now we're broadcasting on your big screen TV. Hey, thanks a lot. You're watching us on the big screen, or maybe we're on the computer just in the background. We appreciate that. Dr. Carole, as much as a number of folks know who you are, there's some folks that are meeting you for the very first time. So you may know the question I'm going to ask, which is, who are you? That's one. And then what's the backstory that led you on this path of helping people really stop playing small and live the life they truly desire?
Okay, well, I'm an education by profession, and writing is my passion. I use both of them together to help people understand who they are and whose they are, and how they can move from one to three to four to five. In other words, helping them change their thinking. So if you help people change their ways of thinking, you help them change their ways of doing, and you help them change their way of becoming. Now, when I say that, it's like everybody said, you have to go do ministry, go do ministry. No, you have to become ministry. So, or whatever it is that you've been assigned to do, you have to be that thing. Now, what happened to me was, I had been successful, been blessed, been successful, stumbled up on a whole lot of things. And then one day I realized, you know what, Lord, I don't feel fulfilled. You have given me all these acclimates. I have my PhD in curriculum and instruction. You told me to go back to school to get my doctor of ministry so that I could work on both platforms to infuse education with ministry seamlessly. And I'm saying, okay, now what? But the key, Shay, was when I retired in 2018 from the education system. Now, I had been a teacher, administrator, K through 12, and at the university, I'd been a professor and administrator. And so I sat on the bed about 2 weeks after I retired. I said, Lord, what do you want me to do now? Don't ever ask the Lord to move your feet or to order your steps if you're not ready to move your feet. Okay. So I was directed to go online, go to this university and look at this program, which was spiritual leadership. And I said, okay. He said, that's what I want you to do. I said, but Lord, I already have a PhD. I don't want to get another degree. He said, but I need you to. I said, yes, sir. Because I had told him whatever he wants me to do, if it's going to equip me to equip the saints in the business world, the marketplace, in church, wherever it is, I would be available. And the thing that surprised me was, it was a surprise, but it wasn't a surprise, is that everything had lined up. And at that moment, it took me back to 2003 when I actually left my university position in Louisville, Kentucky, and God had released me, and I drove all the way 2,100 miles to Los Angeles. What he told me was, yours is an international ministry. What I have for you to do, you cannot do in Kentucky. I need you to take your gifts, your talents, your abilities that I've given you for education and parlay them for the advancement and expansion of my kingdom. And I said, okay, I can do that. I can do that. Because he said, you are to be an influencer of leaders. That doesn't mean a hoopla all that, because leaders have to be trained. And so what he was telling me was, take all those skills that you have in developing people and developing students and now develop my children. And I said, well, Lord, your children, I could do that anywhere. He said, no, my children. Because first I was thinking about the children that I had taught, but he meant kingdom minded people. Because we have to understand that in order to be successful, in order to be significant, we have to be planted in the word, and then we have to make that word grow up by watering it, because he will give the increase. And understanding that we are to represent business through the kingdom here on earth. And so we have everything that we need. We just have to learn how to get into the space where we can develop it and then we can implement it. So that means, tag teaming with mentors, tag teaming with the folks that have already done it, but doing it with biblical principles in mind. So that's what I did. I said, okay, Lord, I went and got my degree, my second PhD, and my second doctorate. And I said, okay, what are we going to do with this, Lord? And so it didn't hit me as to exactly how I was going to do this. So what I was doing, I was teaching in church, but I had been doing that a long time in the education department, training people and holding classes and all that. And I said, Lord, this is still not the platform that you told me that you wanted me to use. So I started doing some writing and speaking and all that, but I never did try to monetize it, because I was doing that, for the kingdom, all from my heart. And then God said, yes, I appreciate this. Yes, this is how you're supposed to do it. But yes, you're also supposed to be compensated for what you're doing. So I said, okay, how can I do this? So what I did, I began sitting under different gurus, if you will, that are in the education business, that are making it well, that are in the spiritual business, that are making it well, that are in the business of entrepreneur and doing well. So I had to acquire even new skills, different skill set. But when I looked around, Shay, what I found out was everything I needed was already planted in me. I just had to learn to develop it in a way that was going to monetize what it was that he had given me. And so I started working on myself. Because the first thing you have to do is work on yourself. Find your identity, identify who you are, what you have, and identify what it is God has told you to do, and then find out how you are to do that. Because execution is the key to being successful in whatever business industry you're in.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being so transparent. And when you mentioned that execution is the key after telling us the backstory, and what an incredible story. I mean, it's really amazing. I'm curious, for the person that says, I like what I'm hearing, Shay, I got it, but I'm curious, how does she help her clients, or what does she recommend to her clients to be consistent? Because I knew I should execute, and I struggle with consistency. You may have heard this before. Consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. And having said that, what do most people struggle with most? Just Shay Brown, I put 2 hands up. It's being consistent. So, so the person says, I want to stop playing small. I agree with it. I'm ready to execute. I'm giving all the commands, but yet I find myself not taking the appropriate action. So the question, when it comes to consistency, what's 1 or 2, maybe 3 ideas you could share with someone so they could start being more consistent and do the things they already know they should be doing? Wow, what a tall order. That might not even be a fair question, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm curious.
It's fair. I was one of those people. I was doing all these things. I was being inconsistent. I'm like, Lord, how am I supposed to do this? I can do it, but I need to be motivated. I need this, I need that. But the key is we are not to do this alone. What I do is come alongside those of us who are struggling or who have not understood the path that they should take in order to reach that goal, in order to reach that purpose, in order to share their gifts with others so that the others can then begin to share and expand their place here on earth too. So it's going to take mentorship, it's going to take discipleship, it's going to take accountability. You have to have someone to be accountable for you, with you, and to you. You also have to have a roadmap, if you will. You have to gain the right tools. And in doing all of this, the pivoting on purpose means you acquire the skill set, you acquire the tools, you acquire the mind shift that you need in order to be consistent. It's just like when you're learning a new subject. When you go in, you may have had some prior knowledge about it, but you're not going to be able to master that subject until you study it, right? Until you find out the ins and outs of it. And you have to find that out from someone who has already walked that journey. You have to begin connecting with folks that are in that same field, connecting with people that have shared the same struggles that you shared. And I promise you, there have been many times where I have gotten off the road, inconsistent, I'm tired, I don't want to do this, let me go over and do something that's familiar. And then I get a tap on the shoulder and say, you know what? That's not what it's about. That's the easy way. Because we have always done something does not mean we're supposed to continue doing it. So we have to learn a new way of doing it. And that's the becoming. You have to become what it is that you say you want to do. And that requires commitment, and it requires stick-to-itiveness, and it requires connecting with someone that can come alongside you. And that's what we do. We look at each person individual, because we all are, and find out what motivates you, what doesn't motivate you, how can we move from point A to point B. So everything is individualized, and it really is about being vulnerable. Whoever it is you decide to connect with, you have to be vulnerable, because that person is going to be vulnerable with and to you to let you know how she got there. And then you go on the journey together. You don't try to do it alone. You don't try to do it alone. And that's where many of us fail.
I love it, by the way. I love it. And it leads us to a segment here we have. You might have answered it so many ways, but I'm still curious, called Today is My January 1st. Now, for those folks who tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you wait for this moment. You wait to say those magical words, and you can all say those words with me now. Today is my January 1st. Happy New Year to you. And for all the new folks, welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It's an honor and a privilege to be streaming onto your mobile device right now. Or maybe we're on your computer, wherever we're listening to us. Thank you so much. Today is our January 1st, is our personal mantra at the Happy Entrepreneur Show. It represents a fresh start. It
Yes.
represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny that past is back there, the past no longer really equals the future. And so my question for Dr. Carole is on the other side is really a two-part question. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And number two, what was another time there was a challenge, there was a setback in your life, and how were you able to bounce back from it?
Okay. First, we have to understand that we cannot let our past hold us hostage. Okay. Your past has passed away, but it's still a part of you. Your past is part of what makes you who you are now. It develops character. It helps you to understand the mistakes that
One, I'm not sure, but you were just telling us about, what today is my January 1st means to you, by the way. And what was one of your January the 1st moments?
Okay. My January 1st moment, one of them was when I understood that I had been playing too small. And that revelation came when I got a diagnosis from the doctor saying that you have ovarian cancer. And I thought about it. I said, you know what, Lord? Because I had lost a brother to throat cancer. I had lost my baby sister to a breast cancer. And then I had my oldest sister was going through some cancer. Now, we didn't have the Barack1 gene, anything like that, but this was happening. And I said, Lord, you know what? You wanted to get my attention because I have not done what you have called me to do. I've dibbled and I've dabbled and I hit and missed, but I have not done it on a consistent basis. Back to that consistency. So I told the doctors when they told me that, I said, you know what? Okay, that's what you say. But I say I'm already healed. So what's the plan? I'm not getting to leave this earth because I have not completed my assignment. So what is it that I need to do? What is it that you need to do so we can get through this, so I can get on with my life? Because I really have too much to do. I have people to reach. I have kingdom impact to make. And they looked at me and I said, seriously. So we went through the whole journey. And every time I went in for a screening or another infusion, that's the chemo, they would say, your numbers are really dropping. I said, why are you amazed? I already told you this was going to happen because it's not time for me to leave here. And so the whole thing is you're going to go through trials and tribulations, but you have to put the stake in the ground and decide that, you know what, it's time for me to pivot. It's time for me to stop playing small. It's time for me to do those things that I know in my gut that I've been called to do. So now you have to find a way to do it. Because God has given us permissive will and he's given us his will. Well, I wasn't doing it right with my permissive will. Okay. I wasn't making the impact that I was called to make. So then I said, okay, let me seek the training. Let me seek the divine order, the divine intervention that I need. I need to stop playing small because I understand that I'm too relevant to be ignored. I began seeing myself the way God sees me. And when you do that, then you can make up your mind, or you will make up your mind. I should say, should make up your mind as to the changes that you need to do. And again, as I said, understand you weren't meant to do that alone. You were not. That's why they have spiritual leaders, they have counselors, they have coaches, they have all that. Folks that have been trained to help you redirect your actions so that you can move from thinking to doing to becoming whatever it is that you know in your heart of hearts that you can do. Because we all have something inside us, that passion that's kind of eating us up. But we have to have the courage, the faithful courage to step forth. this saying that says, when fear knocks on the door, send faith to answer. And so that has been my motto.
I love it, by the way. I love it. Thanks so much for sharing. And, one of my favorite questions to ask when we have time, we have a few minutes now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever been given? Now, I'm going to preface for the audience. I'm going to frame it for the audience so they understand that you've read more books and you can remember with all those letters behind your name. You've watched probably more videos these days than I don't even track the number of hours. I don't know where 10,000 hours came from because I probably had 100,000 plus hours of just watching video trainings now, the way we're set up in the world. But if you had to step back and say, wow, Chef, all the mentors I've had and all the books I've read, here's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given. What is the advice? And why is it so important?
Well, the first thing I had to learn to do was to get out of my own way. Get out of my own way. And my spiritual father told me, he said, you need to learn to steward your vision. There's some people that can't go with you. There's some people that will try to hold you back, but you have to stay strong. And so out of that, I understood that I have I have to do what God told me to do. So man will always try to tell you what you can do. But when God tells you what you must do, then you must do it. You must take the steps you need because the Bible says, study to show yourself approved. You know, you have all these skill sets, you have all the acclimates and all that. But we have to understand that success is just the beginning. You know, those alphabets, I thank God for allowing me to get them, but I'm looking for significance in life. Significance in life. That means that I can impact the way people think, I can impact the way people live, I can impact the way they impact others. And that's what I wanted to do. I have always had a heart to serve. And my question was, okay, Lord, how would you have me to do this? And that's when he gave me the plan. So he said, I want you to first stop playing small and step into what it is that I've given you. Because even as a child, I thank God I've been blessed with spiritual intellect and cognitive, all that stuff, right? But that didn't bode well as a young child, always in his classroom. I know, can I do this? Can I do that? And so over time, people would start, kids are brutal, would say, oh, you think you're smart, you this, you that. And I said, no, I just love to learn. I just love to learn. So in order to be accepted, in order to try to fit in, I kind of shrank. I kind of shrank back, and it was okay. I was still being successful, but I was saying, but I'm not being fulfilled. It's like going to a buffet, and you have all this food, but none of it is what you really want. You know, and you sit and you eat and you eat and you eat, and your stomach is bulging. You're full, but you're not satisfied. So I had gotten to that point where I'm not satisfied where I am. So that means I need to do some things differently. And the first thing I had to do was work on me. I had to begin to create new rhythms so that I can understand that old adage, if you cannot keep doing the same thing that you've been doing and expect different results. So I said, okay, Lord, give me the discernment I need to equip myself or to become equipped so that I can in turn equip others. Because I know I'm not the only one that's been stuck. I'm not the only one that has made mistakes. I'm not the only one that's tried to do it my way. You know, short change this and do this and do that. So, okay. And you can be successful in it, as I said, but you want to be significant with your life because that's what people are going to remember. You know, these degrees will rust, the papers will fade, all that kind of stuff. But when someone calls my name, say, you know, what do you think about Carole Cobb? Then we have to say Dr. Carole Cobb. You know what? She was not only a good person, she was an impactful person. She helped to change my life. She helped to change the trajectory of my life and those around me and helped me to really answer the call on my life. Helped me to find the agenda, the route, the direction I needed to tap into all of those things that are already in me and to become my very authentic self. So when I become who I am supposed to become, then I become transparent and then I can help other people along that same kind of journey.
Well said. Well said. I love it. We can go on and on. This has been amazing. Shout out to Janelle Harvey for putting us together, connecting us, by the way. What an amazing individual. And thank you for sharing. As we come down the home stretch, a two-part question, and I love what your mentor shared, but a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients are you looking to work with these days, if any? Because I'm not sure if your firm's taking on any clients. And number two, how can folks best connect with you? For those folks who want to stay in this conversation over and beyond the time that they have with us now, where should they go? How should they connect with you?
Okay, I'm going to put this plug in first. We're talking about Stop Playing Small. This is my newly released book, Stop Playing Small. And what it does, it actually journals my life and how I was able to go through different steps to get where I am. And I thank God for that. It also made me realize my value to the kingdom and realize how much I needed to step up. And the stepping up was not for me. The stepping up was so that I could get them out of my own way, so that I can reach and help those that also have something in them, that passion, that drive to step up and do what they're called to do. Because there's so many of us. You're doing well, you are achieving great, but you know that there's something missing. Then I did my other book called Significance Over Success. In a world where we're so obsessed by achievement, we have to understand that it's important that we develop relationships. It's important that we be the support system that we need to be so we can learn to live communally with each other. So in saying that, yes, I do take on clients. Yes. Now my client range is usually 35 to 55 or 60. And it's those people that lived a little bit and understand they are doing well where they are, but they know that there's something else that they've been called to do. So I want them to learn how to step boldly into their purpose without regret, without anybody else's permission, and then live in their purpose purposefully. So that just takes a skill set that you learn how to do. You learn to block out other people. You learn to stay focused. Focus is the key element in all of this. Understanding who you are and whose you are, and understanding that God has called each of us for such a time as this, because the world is crazy, and we know that. So it's up to each of us to stand in our beliefs and begin to operate from a power from within. And that means we have to connect. We have to develop community. And so that's what I do. I connect people, I train people, I encourage people to just really tap into that source, that dunamis power that is within them, and identify themselves, identify their gifts, plot the course so that they can learn how to step out to who they used to be into who they are supposed to be. It is a journey, but that's the nature of the journey that we have to take. It's a continuous process. Like in education, it's a continuous learning process. So we have to allow ourselves to make some mistakes along the way, but then we get up, we rise, and we keep going.
Get up, rise, and do it again. Well, let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I know you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And you're giving us the most precious resource you have right now, which is your time. So thank you so much. Can't wait to speak to you again soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to viewers for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show, by the way. So I never get tired of reminding you every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming, or you're taking your life to a whole nother level. Here's what I believe. I believe today is your January 1st. And because of just that one reason, I believe your best is still yet to come. Don't play small. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name hasn't changed. It's still Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. We'll make some good things how we connect again next time. God bless. Talk to you later, Dr. Carole. We out of here.
God bless.
Peace, everybody.